All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pete Carroll Was Right, the confusingly named Alabama football live show. I am Carter, that is Mitch, and we are here to talk all things Alabama football with you. Um, it's been a long layoff, like it was for the team itself, but
No.
glad to be back this week talking Auburn. Hope a lot of y'all are watching the basketball game right now. Going little sloppy maybe in that first half, but seems like it'll go fine. I'm gonna casually pull up the stream over here so I can catch the second half out on one side as we get into it. But
Yeah. So we haven't done a show since, before the Mississippi State game. So that's been eight quarters of pretty good defensive football.
yeah, pretty solid. And that's I don't know if we have a whole lot of takeaways in terms of stuff from Mississippi State or Kentucky, but the one thing I do want to say is I've seen a lot of they've allowed 20 total points since the starting in the second half of the Georgia game, and they two total touchdowns in that time, 3 points total in the last two games. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi State are the 11th, 12th, and 13th offenses in the SEC. And yeah, that's a fair point. They're probably not going to shut down better offenses, but they did what you're supposed to do against bad offenses when you're a good defense. And there's value in that. There's predictive value in that. That matters.
Yeah. Cause if the sky was falling, mentality that we kind of saw, if the defense was what all of those people kind of thought it was after Ole Miss or even after Georgia, you're not seeing two really clean games from the defense like you did
right
against Mississippi State and Kentucky.
Because it's not the problem wasn't that they weren't talented enough and that they just were getting overwhelmed by good offenses. They just were not playing as well as they could have. And it's obvious that they've started playing better, even if the level of competition has been worse. So,
yeah, I don't know that I have any, I don't know that there's anybody that stood out to me individually that's stepped up and made it that much better. But
yeah, the safety play has gone from a problem to solid, I think, is probably the only thing I would really say. And Christian Harris has started to get better, I think. Yeah. And maybe Jordan Battle has gone from fine to really kind of starting to show out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not one player has just started to dominate. Tim Smith has started to get more minutes. I thought he played really well against Kentucky. Christian Barmore's starting to show. There's no one guy that's just it's not like Will Anderson suddenly turned it on and got 7 sacks or something like that. It's just been the overall play of the whole unit kind of just getting steadily better.
Yeah, which is kind of what you want to see, I think.
Right.
I mean, you'd love to have some guy just step up and be a monster, but you also want to see everybody just kind of play well.
Right. I sort of prefer this to having one guy show out and be primarily responsible for it and kind of cover up the fact that the rest of them still weren't playing well.
Right.
Sort of like you had at times in 2018 with Quinnen, where he was kind of masking some deficiencies.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think Daniel Wright, closer to maybe what you would expect starting Nick Saban safety to play a little bit of an aberration this early in the season, but I think kind of settling in okay. I mean, we'll probably still see a play here or there, maybe even this week, where you're kind of hey, what you doing, Daniel? But I don't I'm not worried when he's out there,
right?
Every play,
yeah, and even when they rotated in DeMarco Hellams a bit at safety and toward the end of the game, he looked good. He had some highlight plays. they barely played dime against Kentucky, but Brian Branch has looked really good the last 2 games. So, we talked about this before, but like his problem was not that like he like didn't know what to do and was just lost all the time. He was either like missing tackles or he was pressing and freelancing and trying to make a play happen when he didn't need to do that. Like he has generally been in the right place. And you're like the last couple of weeks, you're just starting to see him like settle in and be there when he's supposed to be there and make the plays that he's supposed to make. Like he's never going to be one of the like best safeties of the Saban era, but he's being what we thought he could be before the season and just being steadying back there. Like he doesn't have to be a superstar, and he's not going to be, but this level of play is more than adequate.
Yeah. I guess offensively, Mac a little more inconsistent throwing the ball, but not like concerning.
Yeah, like both those teams really on defense were starting to do the thing that you would kind of expect the defenses to do at some point, which is to just sit back and keep everything in front of them, which is a little easier on them now that Jalen Waddle's out. But I don't know, and Mac's maybe been pressing a bit, like even I was quite happy that after he threw that interception on Saturday, I was like, I think Mac got a little greedy on that one. And then Saban literally said in the press conference, he was like, yeah, Mac got a little greedy on that one. And I was like, okay, good. I feel validated. But yeah, I don't think there's any fun problem. Like some people said against Mississippi State that it looked like he may have been, like his foot may have hurt or something like that because he wasn't really stepping into throws and didn't quite have the velocity. I don't think that was a problem on against Kentucky. So seems like they'll be fine. I'm not worried about the offense. And this Auburn defense is not what last year's was. They don't have anywhere near the playmakers up front. And KJ Britt, who is going to be their best linebacker, has been out like basically the whole year. So their run defense in particular, I think, has just been really meh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we want to start getting into like previewing, but I feel like the Auburn defense is like the one unit that's like significantly different than last year's matchup.
Right.
Whereas like Alabama's offense and Auburn's offense, are more or less the same personnel wise. Like maybe Auburn's offensive line had some turnover. Alabama's defense is improved, I would say. And then the Auburn defense is just like much, much worse than it was last year.
Yeah, I think this Auburn offense is like, they might be a little better at running the ball than they were last year. They, like Tank Bigsby is probably better than any of the backs they had last year, but he's like questionable for this game. And then both of their starting tackles, including the incredibly named Brodarius Ham, I think both of them are set to miss this game, which is not a good sign for them, I would say. So even if they have been steadier on that side than they were last year, I would not expect them to have a whole lot of success.
I mean, one of their strengths this year, I think, from what little I've watched, has been sort of their outside runs. And if you're not getting your running back 100% and you're missing, your tackles, that's going to be kind of hard to replicate.
Yeah. And then Bo Nix is just, he's Bo Nix. He's exactly the same as he was last year. Like basically, like a lot of people were like, oh, Chad Morris, like he's going to come in and make Bo Nix into a real quarterback. And he's the same guy he was last year, which, I don't know, maybe he comes back again and makes the like 3 or 4 absolutely perfect YOLO throws that he made last year. But I don't know. I think in this game, Alabama fans, and I totally get it because it's Auburn and fucking crazy things happen, but I think Alabama fans for this game sometimes fixate on what could happen and what has happened in weird circumstances rather than what's likely to happen. And what's likely to happen is that an extremely mediocre quarterback is not likely to throw for a whole lot of yards on this Alabama defense. Particularly, like, I mean, the best hope they have is throwing up prayers to Seth Williams, and
Yep.
I'm sure as much as they can, Alabama will have Pat Surtain or Josh Jobe on him, and I trust those guys in one-on-one matchups against anyone. And Seth Williams is really good, but he's not. I don't know. Not like a top 5 receiver in the country or anything.
He's not really taking the top off the defense, right? Like, a lot of his effectiveness is like kind of towards the red zone, like kind of throwing up some jump balls in the end zone. Whereas like he's not like even if he manages to make a catch on Surtain kind of down the field, like it's not going to be one of those where he catches it and then gets a bunch of yards after catch.
Right. It's going to be a 50-50 ball where he's gonna be down wherever he catches it at that point.
Yep. Like, I'm not like, Schwartz or like Stove. Those guys are back and seem like they've been there forever, but also like not really a concern, I don't think.
Like, perfectly fine players, but yeah, that's just like,
not the type of guys that beat Alabama.
Right. Not the type of guys that can consistently win those one-on-one matchups that actually, like, I have no doubt that Gus is going to pull out some, he's going to empty the kitchen sink in this game like he always does. And I have no doubt that against this defense, which is sometimes susceptible to, just totally blowing an assignment against a weird look, like, they'll probably get some points off a couple weird plays like this. I don't expect Alabama to hold them like under 10 points or even under, 14-17 or anything like that. But you can't make a whole offense out of that. And that I just don't see them having consistent enough success against this team to score the kind of points they're going to need with this offense against a defense that is not as good as the one they had last year. And our boy Mac put up what, 38 points on them last year. So like I feel confident they will do just as much.
Yeah, had 2 red zone drives, kind of stymied by picks, and it was.
I feel confident that he will not throw a 100-yard pick six off Najee Harris's ass in this game.
Yep, I feel pretty comfortable also saying the same. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like they'll probably string a few plays together. I don't think anybody should go into this game expecting. Bo Nix is the kind of guy who's not going to sit back in the pocket and make plays. Like, if he's making plays, they're kind of either scripted to like get him on the run, or he's just gotten spooked and rolled out and just found some random receiver downfield. Like, but like you said, you can't build an entire game plan or win a game like that. Like the other piece of the offense that gets a lot of hype but hasn't really been super effective is how do you say his last name? The big tight end that they have come in and play.
It's
not Pegasus,
Pegues,
but
JJ Pegues, yeah.
Pegues, yeah.
Well, it's great. I am all for a 300-pound tight end running the Wildcat. I know Alabama was in it for him a little bit last year after the bizarre saga of Eric Gilbert and everything, but I am a little sad that they didn't get him because I love the idea of a 300-pound tight end running Wildcat and doing stuff like that. But it's not like he's like everyone's gotten all excited, but it's like he has like 3 touches in a game for like 11 total yards. It's not like he's actually done anything serious in their offense.
Yeah. Though I don't know if there's going to be a game where he does something like it'll probably be some Auburn fluke. I mean, I guess I don't know. The game's in Alabama, so maybe this might be one of those games where they just get nothing and it's a
like we haven't even talked about the fact that Saban is going to miss this game, but like if Auburn has any ability to like import their devil magic from Jordan-Hare Stadium into this game, I think they wasted it today on getting Saban to actually have COVID instead of just testing a false positive. But like, I don't know. I feel like you're probably on the same wavelength here, but I have no concern about him missing the game.
So I read a little bit, like a quote, I don't even remember what, a 247 or something, where he said he was going to get the feed, basically the all 22 feed, I guess, from the stadium at his house. and said he couldn't. He was like kind of vague in how he said it, but he said he couldn't really communicate during the game or at halftime.
Yeah,
But like,
the rule is that like he can't have any contact with the team or coaches or anything like that starting 90 minutes before the game.
okay,
So he's not going to be like coaching
until the game's over,
Yeah.
or okay.
So he can't like make a halftime speech or anything like that. But I mean, I think at times people have gone too hard on the idea that he's like not a good in-game coach. He's not the best game day coach there is. Like he's, not as aggressive on fourth downs and things like that as you would want. And sometimes, doesn't use his timeouts well in the first half in particular. But like, I don't know. He's a pretty good in-game coach, but like that is not where the majority of the value he brings as a coach is. So like, I don't feel like it really affects them that much. Like,
like I guess one of these things where I was like, I always kind of wonder so this is a little off topic, but kind of on topic. There was Belichick, one of his defensive coordinators was interviewed on some podcast. I don't remember if you saw. I saw the Smart Football guy like retweet it and talk about it, but it was kind of asked about what it was like to be Bill Belichick's defensive coordinator and like how hands-on Bill Belichick was, and the guy said, basically we saw him for like one meeting a week. He like came to the team, the defense wide meeting, and then spent the rest of his week like talking to Tom Brady. Like he just had meetings with Tom Brady all week. And so I don't know that Saban is quite that degree, like hands off with the defense. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has less impact on it than we think.
Well, he doesn't I don't think he's really like that during, like, I think he's a micromanager during the week. Like, I think he's very involved in the game planning on both sides of the ball, really. But he's not a play caller at all.
Right.
Like, on either side of the ball, like, I don't know, he kind of trusts those guys to do their job. So, and the thing is that, like, if you would worry about how the preparation affected them or what the mentality was going to be like, well, they already got a trial run of this, even like up to game day, because he wasn't cleared like till the afternoon of the Georgia game. So in some ways that actually worked out very nicely. So, he's still capable of being really involved in the things that he actually does during the week and the game planning and those things. And, I guess you can say I don't know if he gives a particularly great halftime speech or something like that, but like, Sark will still call the plays, which I think is good. And I don't know, he has an experience as a head coach, and I think he called plays as a head coach at Washington at USC. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah,
but like,
I think he did too.
That is a thing that a fair number of head coaches do. So it's not something that you can't manage.
So like all the pregame stuff is going to be exactly the same. Like he can more or less, even if he has to do it virtually, I mean, he can more or less be as effective there as he can anywhere else. But I guess what's going to be different is, the type of things where it's like maybe they're more aggressive on fourth down stuff, because I imagine like that's typically up to him.
Probably, yeah. Maybe they go up 30 in the fourth quarter and Sark actually lets Bryce throw it the whole time. That's what I'm hoping. That's my number one hope for this game, is that they get up big and Sark puts, because Bryce is his guy. Like that, like they have him because of Sark, and like that was the connection that brought Bryce to Alabama. So I'm just hoping like Sark gets Bryce in there early and they're just chucking it up 30 in the fourth quarter, like really let Bryce get those reps,
No, I would love that, and I would also guess that if it was up to Sark, that he would love to do that as well. There was a quote, I'm trying to find it because it was so funny. It was okay. But I have confidence in our coaches and our players that they'll be able to do what they have to do. I mean, we've all got to live with the consequences of what happens, whether I'm standing there or not. That's something I hope everybody realizes. So it's kind of like I may not be standing there, but I'm kind of standing there.
I'm always watching.
You're really still going to have to deal with whatever. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know that I expect it to look all that much different.
Like, the fundamental deal with this game is that Alabama is just a lot better team. And yes, weird things happen in the Iron Bowl, and they have repeatedly during Saban's tenure, but the big truth of this rivalry is that big upsets are very, very rare. Yes, weird things happen, but Alabama was a 3.5 point favorite last year. They were a 4.5 point favorite in 2017. I don't know what it was in 2014 or in 2013 and 2010, but it wasn't huge spreads in any of those games that Auburn's won under Gus. And the spread in this game, it's I think you were just checking before we started, and the spread has not gone down since.
If that tells you anything about how much Saban's loss will probably impact this game, the line hasn't moved at all. It literally not even a half point. It's stayed it's at 24.5. That's just a massive number. And I don't thinking I know FPI is actually still kind of high on Auburn. They're 14th or 15th, but I know S&P has Auburn.
SP has them 22nd.
22nd, okay.
38th on offense and 25th on defense.
38th on offense. Oof. Yeah. So this is other if you just changed the name, if it just wasn't Auburn, they had different jerseys on, different names,
no one would be worried about this game. Yeah.
This is it's basically just Kentucky again. So I guess Alabama offense. One, I mentioned on the defensive side, there wasn't anybody that's really stepped up or in any big way. But I have liked what I've seen from Billingsley.
Yeah.
On offense.
Yeah, we all kind of knew he had the athleticism, and I love seeing him get those catches in the game with Forrestall out. I have seen some people being oh yeah, he's so athletic and he really catches the ball. He just needs to improve that blocking and he can really get on the field. Well, I tweeted this earlier, but I have not done an extensive film study of him watching every snap, but the times his blocking has stood out to me, it's been because it's been really good.
Right.
In the Kentucky game, he even had a couple moments where he was lined up in line and got some nice blocks in the running game. He's not ever going to be Nick Walker or Travis McCall as an inline tight end, just blowing guys off the ball like he's an offensive tackle. But particularly, they line him up at H-back a lot, and they either have him on arc blocks when they're getting outside runs. They have him on the slice blocks when they run split zone. They've used him as the insert blocker on ISO runs, which is it's an inside gap run where you have a fullback or H-back insert and has a specific guy that he's schemed to block from the beginning, like the Mike or something like that. Usually when you have power or counter, when you have a lead blocker like a fullback, his job is to basically wrap around the line and block the first guy that's there. Whereas on an ISO play, it's an inside run where you specifically from the start, he's block this guy. And they've used him on a couple of those runs, and he does a really good job on those. You wouldn't necessarily think that he'd be a great blocker at, I don't know, he's 230, which is obviously pretty skinny for a tight end, but I don't think he's a bad blocker. Whatever consistency Saban has referred to that he needs, because Saban said something about it. He's he just needs to have that consistency. We know what an impact he can have for us. Whatever consistency Saban is referring to, he's not saying that he's not a good enough blocker. Maybe his technique isn't consistent and he messes up sometimes there, but I have noticed him several times as a plus blocker this year.
Yeah. It's like if he was a consistently like below average blocker, he wouldn't see the field. Like they're not putting anybody out there that can't consistently be good.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
maybe, like maybe he can't consistently, maybe he hasn't been consistently great, and that's what Saban's talking about. But I think the standard to which Saban is holding his blocking and the standard to which the people that are complaining about it are holding it are kind of like two different things.
Yeah. And I don't even think that, like, I know. Alabama fans sometimes get in their heads particular criticisms about players and then just hold on to those in the face of all evidence. And I don't even think those is one of those situations. I think it's just he hasn't played a lot, and you can see what an athlete he is, and he's small for a tight end. And so people look at all that and they're like, oh, he must not be a very good blocker. Like, it's a very easy, like, mental leap to make given the way that we as fans watch games. But I think if you go back and look at it, like, I don't think that's the case. He's really shown that he can be really effective regardless of that size. So it's funny because I think Ben tweeted something about this on Saturday, but if he's coming along to the point where they can consistently use him, even with Forrest all healthy, it would kind of get them to the point where now probably their best personnel package is 12, which is weird. Like, how long has it been where 11 or even, last year they should have run more 10 than they did. But, like, how long has it been since a personnel package like that was their best thing? Like, because if he's really come along and they can use him a lot, I mean, that's exactly what you want. And a lot of ways as an offense is to be able to run 12 with with versatile tight ends who can do anything, because you can just create matchup problems across the board when you can run that and not sacrifice anything in the passing game. And I don't know, Slade Bolden is fine as a player, but I don't think you're losing a whole lot when you substitute Billingsley in for him as a receiver. So if that can be, if he's developed to the point where they trust him to be on the field as a second tight end and can mix in that package a lot, then I think that bodes really well going forward as a way of kind of adjusting to sort of, especially to generate more explosive plays with Waddle out.
Yeah, and it should theoretically, I mean, we haven't seen as much of them recently in the last two games, thankfully, as we did early in the season, but it should help out when they're trying to run on 1st and 10, 2nd and 10. And conversely, when they try and run play action off of it, it makes it kind of harder to anticipate to some degree. It forces Auburn to maybe like keep, some heavier personnel on the field as well, where, like you said, it creates, better matchups for guys.
Yeah. Like, I think for a lot of offenses, the ability to run 12 a lot of the time is kind of ideal. It's just that those true hybrid tight ends are so rare that it's rarely worth getting that second guy on the field in terms of taking your third best wide receiver off. Because the reason 11 is the base personnel for like 90% of offenses across all of football these days is because it gives you the ability to. It's just very versatile. Like you can still get 6 or 7 blockers in the run game and up to 5 people out as receivers. Like you have a lot of versatility and you can do that. And in 12, if you have a true receiving threat at both tight end spots, you can do the same thing, except that you're now generating a better matchup because you have a tight end on a linebacker or whatever, instead of, your third wide receiver on a nickelback or something like that. And
exactly,
if that's what they can get going forward, and maybe even needs to do it a lot this Saturday, because we don't know if Bolden's going to be available again after he tweaked his ankle. And I mean, I would love to see more snaps from Javon Baker, but they have not really gotten him the ball yet when he's been in there. So,
speaking of, with Slade kind of being hobbled a little bit, we got to see Devontae take some punts.
Yeah. I remember seeing him out there for the first one. I was like, oh no, I feel very uncomfortable with it. This makes me incredibly, like, it was shades of Eddie Jackson all over again. And then he took that first one back for like 40 yards, which was Alabama's longest punt return of the year. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I still don't like. You probably want him to do it a little just so he gets the reps because he obviously hasn't done that a lot. But if they feel comfortable with that, then maybe let that be a weapon for the playoffs. Maybe I don't want Devontae to get hurt on a punt return against freaking Arkansas. I'm not questioning Waddle on punt returns and kick returns is stupid. I think because he's a dynamic game breaking player, and you don't choose just not to play your best players where they're their best because you're afraid of them getting hurt. That said, there we go. We're back.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't choose to not play your best players in the spots because you're afraid they're going to get hurt. But with the depth that they've had, the effect on their depth of having Waddle out, and with the offense being so reliant on Devontae, I think there's something to be said for caution in this case when you don't need him there. In the playoff, fine, because you just want guys to be their best and to impact the game in as many ways as possible. But if they don't need him in that spot against Auburn or Arkansas or whoever, then
has anybody else taken punts this year?
I mean, this one is almost worse. But I thought I saw someone say, and I probably wasn't paying attention at this point, but did Patrick Surtain take one?
Okay,
at the end of the game against Kentucky?
I had that in my mind. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I dreamed that or something. But yeah, that's what I was like. I was like, surely, yeah, you don't want your impact guy. The whole discussion about Devontae also pretty much applies to Surtain.
Yeah, I guess you could say that they probably have better depth at corner than they do at wide receiver at this point. But you still don't want to take the chance of losing Pat because he's take what you will from PFF grades, but he's the highest graded PFF defender in the SEC right now, which I think lines up with what we would think of him. That's definitely not a guy you want to lose on a punt return, but
and I don't have a problem with putting Devontae back there. I mean, maybe you just tell him to catching punts is one of those things where you kind of want somebody you're confident in catching the punts. Because that's like a big, impact play if it goes wrong. Right.
Think about I don't know, in 2016 when they were having Trayvon do it a bunch as a freshman and he fumbled 4 times. That it's very bad to not have a reliable punt returner. And as long as I know we get worried about guys getting hurt, I think mostly because we were scarred by Eddie and now Jalen getting hurt on a kick return, but it's not like any of those were especially violent collisions or odd plays or anything like I don't know. Guys just get hurt playing football sometimes. And I don't think there should be some unusual fear with Devontae back there. At some point, it's like you said, you want a guy you can trust there. You don't want a guy out there that you're unsure about.
I pulled up the stats. I don't see Surtain's not credited with fielding a punt in the box stats, but I don't know if that's because it was a fair catch and they don't log those. It wasn't actually a return.
He didn't actually return one, I don't think. I didn't actually see it. I thought I heard someone say that. I don't know. I might have to go back and double check. Or if someone that's listening wants to add us on Twitter and say whether you saw it or not. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. This is one of those games where just catch the punt. I don't think we're going to need anything.
Send someone out there who can throw up the hand and catch it reliably. Other than that, there is no need to get a game-breaking play here, probably.
Anything else about this game?
I don't think so. I mean, I can't remember if we were saying this before the show or at the very beginning, but Alabama is probably a little better on defense than they were last year, about the same or better than they were on offense last year by the time of this game. Auburn is basically the same. Maybe they run the ball a little bit better on standard downs, but maybe not with the tackles.
Right.
But about the same on offense and noticeably worse on defense. And this game is in Tuscaloosa, even without the fans in the stands. Like, I get it. Weird things happen when you play Auburn. I understand why people are anxious about this game. I am more anxious about it than I would be if it were a team not named Auburn with this exact same resume and stats and stuff. But
yeah,
Alabama is the much better team and is more likely to absolutely blow Auburn out than to lose. So,
yep. I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I understand fans being anxious about this game, but just like dial it back. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, and prepare yourself to get mad at a few plays. Like, just go ahead and get ready for it.
Yeah, even when they blow Auburn out, there's always going to be one play where it's like, Gus dialed up a triple reverse pass, like whatever. Oh no, we gave up 7 points and now we're only up 42-7. Like,
yeah,
it's gonna be fine. I promise.
Yeah. So let's see. The spread's 24.5. The total is 62. I don't know if I can do quick math on that. It's like 40.
Wait, what's the over under?
62.
So that's what? It's not 42-18. That's not quite. So like 43-19, roughly.
Yeah. Which I think 19 is about right for Auburn. I think I'd have it in like the 20-21 range.
Yeah, I'd probably say like 45-20, I think is probably my best guess for this game.
Yeah, I was going to go like 48-20.
Like like give me 55-14, like I would love it. But yeah, 45-20 feels right.
If they let Bryce throw, I'm definitely thinking north of 45, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Anything? Alabama #1 in the playoff. I would imagine there's a 0 chance if they win out that they're not the #1 seed at this point. Like I think
Clemson has a loss, so they're not getting over it. Ohio State will have fewer games against a fairly soft Big Ten this year, so they're not going to play fucking Northwestern in the title game. So even undefeated, I really doubt. It's going to be Bama at #1 if they're undefeated, which is great. I think we probably want Ohio State to win out now, because then that probably assures them of a 2-3 spot, because one of Clemson or Notre Dame is going to pick up an additional loss. I don't think it really matters which one wins, assuming it's the two of them and neither loses again before then. I don't think it really matters who wins the ACC title game. I mean, I guess you root for Notre Dame on the off chance that like they knock out Clemson and then somehow knock out Ohio State in the semis, because you'd much rather play Notre Dame than Ohio State.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter, because like if they beat Clemson, then Clemson has 2 losses and they're out. And if Clemson beats them, then in all likelihood you're going to have...
They play Ohio State.
Yeah, you'd have like Alabama 1, Clemson, Ohio State 2-3, and then probably Notre Dame at 4, which yes, give me Notre Dame in the first round. Hell yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
or like if the committee wants to do a great justice and get Cincinnati in there, give it to me. Give me Cincinnati. I don't care.
Yeah. I think people like, I was looking at some sims today from our like playoff predictor thing. Cincinnati needs there not to be a 1-loss ACC runner-up. The 1-loss ACC runner-up is going to be favored to get in over Cincinnati.
So they need to root for Notre Dame.
Yeah. I mean, no, Notre Dame could lose to North Carolina this week and then beat Clemson,
Yeah, that's true.
and then maybe. But yeah, I generally think you're right. I think they have a slightly better chance than A&M if A&M finishes undefeated.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing the scenario where, well, I guess if Alabama wins out and I don't know, a bunch of other, like, Notre Dame beats Clemson and Ohio State's undefeated, so that's like a 1-2-3, and then I don't know. I guess that was what they would do, but like I would almost rather see Cincinnati in there at that point because do you really want to see Alabama play A&M again? Does anyone think that's going to turn out differently? Because I don't know. There are some teams that there's a high enough volatility that if you're like, oh, if they play that game again, like who knows what could happen? But like, does anyone really need to see Alabama and A&M again? Like,
yeah, like it's I know like I said, it's like Cincinnati would be kind of a slight favorite to get in over them, but I don't think the model is not accounting for the type of mentality that they would have. It's like A&M versus Alabama. We already saw that. We don't really need to see it. But I think people are kind of underrating like Pac-12 undefeated champ as well. I think if you get USC or Oregon undefeated Pac-12 champ, I think there's a decent chance they get in over Cincinnati as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably it's just hard to tell with the Pac-12 at this point because things are so in like USC's 3-0, but like they're not like
no
that they should be 1-2. Like they should have lost both of their games against the Arizona schools in the first couple of games. So I don't see them, even with the limited number of games, I don't see them coming undefeated out of that conference. And then I don't know, Oregon hasn't been great either. And if they play their full schedule and get there, I could see like 7-0 Oregon over Cincinnati. But I mean, at this point, things are so volatile. Like, I would almost be surprised if even an undefeated Oregon, like if they're like 6-0, I don't know. I would personally vote for like 11-0, particularly if Cincinnati like has the guts to just like call BYU and be like, "Hey, let's do it."
Yeah, I mean, I think they should. I think they should.
Yeah, no. I because I said this on Twitter, but it's like, if you can't beat BYU, then like, how are you going to claim you're like, yeah, we deserve to play Alabama or Ohio State or whoever? Like, if you're saying that you deserve a spot in the playoff, then you shouldn't be afraid to play BYU.
Yeah, I don't know what the money difference is between qualifying for a playoff game versus like a New Year's. I would say if they went out there at worst in a New Year's Six bowl, right?
Oh yeah,
so I don't know what
that
difference is. I don't know what the difference in money is between a New Year's Six bowl and the playoff. But I mean that has to be what the factor would be in deciding to play BYU. It's like, if we're decently confident, then yeah, like the money's going to be worth it. Then
well, and because the thing is, like BYU as an independent is not guaranteed a spot.
No,
like I think the way that's set up, like there's only one like at-large spot, isn't there, in the New Year's Six bowls? Because like the best Group of 5 champion is guaranteed a spot, but BYU is not Group of 5; they're an independent. So
right,
there's a good chance that if Cincinnati schedules that game and loses, that they're still in the Group of 5 champion spot in the New Year's Six. Mm-hmm. So, like, obviously for prestige reasons, you'd rather be in the playoff, but I don't know. In terms of monetary value, there may not be a downside.
Yeah.
There, like, yeah, just do it. Just do it, Cincinnati.
Yeah. Anyway, for all the Cincinnati fans watching, you just want to be rooting for probably Notre Dame to win out, and I think you'll be fine. I think.
Yeah.
You control your own destiny. So.
I mean, if Notre Dame wins out, Alabama beats Florida, and like Texas A&M loses to LSU, which they could. Like,
yeah,
I don't think anyone thinks this A&M team is a juggernaut. Like, they've been playing very solidly, but they're not incredible. Like, they could lose one of their games before the end of the season. That is not out of the question at all. By the way, Herb Jones made a he's taken 2 3-pointers tonight and just made one.
Oh, wow! His 3-point percentage is way up from last season. That's a great sign.
Yeah.
I was gonna look. It was very like there was like a 30% chance I think last time I looked at A&M wins out.
Who have they got left besides LSU?
Auburn and then Tennessee.
Yeah, like they could lose to Auburn or LSU. I'd be surprised against Tennessee, but I don't know. This A&M team is not like, I don't know. I especially even if they win out and it's down to like them in Cincinnati, like I don't think they're the type of team that is claimed like, oh, we lost one game to a really great team and we've just dominated everyone since. Like this, they're fine.
Yeah. So. I mean, it's not like it's not like their one loss was a close loss. I mean, they did beat Florida. Fine. But like their only like dominant win was South Carolina, right? Like they barely beat Vanderbilt. They lost. They barely beat Florida. Beat Mississippi State by 2 touchdowns. It's really nothing special. And you beat Arkansas by 11 points. Like,
yeah, like
I don't know.
Nothing in there screams like we're a great team that was screwed by being in a division with Alabama. Like it's.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's a sufficient amount of playoff talk. I don't think we probably don't want to like dip into Florida at this point since we've got a couple more weeks before that.
Well, yeah, we still got. Weirdly, I forgot, but Auburn isn't even the last regular season game. Who knows? Like if we have another one scheduled too.
Like at this point, I think the smart money is probably on, because if either Alabama wins on Saturday or A&M beats LSU, then LSU is eliminated. So at that point, you can make them play a game on the 19th, and it doesn't matter. So I think the smart money is on Alabama. LSU is scheduled for the 5th, and then they bump Alabama Arkansas to the 12th. So like Alabama probably has 2 more regular season games after this, and then Florida in the championship game most likely. So yeah, I think it's a little early to dip into that, but
agreed.
All right. Well, we will be back next week, possibly previewing LSU, possibly previewing Arkansas. We will see. But thanks for joining us after this absence, and roll tide.
Roll tide.